Hi everyone, it's Irene. I hope you're having an amazing day today. Today I'm going to be going over the new guild update which released last week. First of all, I want to say I'm so sorry that this video took so long to make. I was a little bit busy last week, and then when I finally started making the video, devs just announced that the new boss timings were bugged, and so I decided to wait until now to release the video so that the guide is as accurate as possible and to make sure the timings are still valid. I'm so sorry that you had to wait so long. Guild has had a pretty big overhaul, and I'll go over all the new changes and additions now. So first up, we have the change in rankings and rewards, and I personally think that this is an amazing change for Guild. It makes the competitive scene much more viable for more guilds, and it's just a lot better this way. Having the top 50 be the leaderboard, it's much better because there are so many guilds, and Grandmaster 3 was so big before. Going all the way from rank 31 to I've seen some guilds in the 2000s being Grandmaster 3, it was kind of crazy. The change is definitely a welcome change, and I love the topping pieces and the amber ores as extra rewards. The new addition of guild quests is also nice. The quests don't really give that much, but they are a nice little free extra. That you get just from checking in and using an emoji in the guild hall, which for some reason only works if you change your cookie to my cookie, but it's still free rewards. And then we've also got Guild Siege. Now Guild Siege is an interesting little mode. Do you want to see a full video on Guild Siege? If you do, I probably won't be able to make it this week, but perhaps next week for the next upcoming Guild Siege, assuming that it is every week, I will probably be able to make a video on it then. Please let me know in the comments if you are interested. The rewards for Guild Siege look so good and promising. It's very exciting. We also have the shop change. Now I don't really know how this shop change works because it says something about an honor system. I don't know what this honor system is. Is it based on your guild level? I'm not sure, but the new shop is great. There's so much good stuff in the shop. It is much better than it was before. And of course, the new bane of my existence, the new boss, the machine god of the eternal void, who I will simply be calling Machine God. This new boss is definitely interesting, and to be honest, it is nice to see different cookies getting used, even if I was kind of unprepared for this. So in this video, I will go over all 4 bosses because they also made some changes to the structure of the bosses, so for the sake of convenience, I will include all the bosses together for you. Let's begin with Red Velvet Dragon. They made probably the best change that they could have to Red Velvet Dragon, and that is the removal of the really annoying minion health scaling, so there is no more damage fall off. Oh my god, this makes me so happy because there is no more fighting over who gets to hit low level, there is no more damage inconsistency, no more damage fall off. It's great. It's honestly, this was an amazing change to Red Velvet Dragon in my opinion. So the team consists of Dark Choco, Shadow Milk, Prune Juice, Black Sapphire and Candy Apple, or if you don't have your Dark Choco Magic Candy at least level 20, you may have more success using Matcha. I will include Matcha's build at the end after I've gone over the 5 core cookies for the Dark Choco team, and then you just replace Dark Choco with Matcha if you want to use Matcha. So I will go over the builds for the cookies now. First up, we have Dark Choco. On Dark Choco, you want to run 2 damage resist toppings, 2 HP toppings, a cooldown topping and a HP tart, and then a 4-line damage resist biscuit. Or you can run a 3-line damage resist 1-line HP, or a 2-line damage resist 2-line HP, and then just adjust your toppings accordingly, adding more damage resist toppings if you're running HP lines on your biscuit. Stats wise on Dark Choco, you want to run 75% damage resist. This is your cap. Try and aim for 75% if possible. If you're not hitting 75%, your Dark Choco is much more likely to die. Then you're going to want to run around 80% HP if possible. You can run less if your Dark Choco is not dying, or if your Dark Choco skill level is low. The higher the skill level, the more likely Dark Choco is to die. So if you haven't leveled up his skill, keep it low level. Don't level it at all. Honestly, just leave it at level 1. Or if you have him placed in Hall leveled up, you can instead take him out of Hall and just level him naturally and leave his skill level low, so then his skill is not leveled up either. The team does work with level 90 skill. In the video I show, Dark Choco's skill is level 90. So don't worry if your skill is level 90, you're just gonna have to run more HP. That's all I can say. And then you want to run around 10% cooldown if you can. I would recommend running a little more than this if possible, but I'd say 10% is about the minimum for the timings I'm going to show you. If you run less than 10%, you may find that Dark Choco gets stunned at around the 20-second mark when Black Sapphire casts, or he may miss his last cast. If your Dark Choco is getting stunned, this will lose you a lot of damage unless you adjust the timing, so I will show you timings that you can use instead if you are using lower cooldown Dark Choco. If he does miss the last cast, however, the damage difference is not too much, so don't worry too much about it. It's probably about maybe like a couple 100 million. You also need Dark Choco's Magic Candy. You want Dark Choco's Magic Candy at least level 20 to be better than Matcha. If your Dark Choco's Magic Candy is not at level 20, I'd recommend using Matcha instead. I would recommend, however, having Dark Choco's Magic Candy at level 30 if possible, because at level 30 you will be doing the most damage. Next up we have Shadow Milk. On Shadow Milk you want to run 5 crit toppings and then either a crit tart or an attack tart, or you can use a cooldown tart if you really need to, and then a full line cooldown biscuit. On Shadow Milk stats wise you want to run 32% cooldown, as much crit as you can, as much attack as you can. Now for crit on Shadow Milk, the crit cap is 72. If you run 72% crit, you are almost guaranteed to die every time on first cast, which is what you want. If you run less crit than this, you do run the risk of not dying every time, but the payoff is you do more damage, so it's kind of swings and roundabouts. If your Shadow Milk does not die on the first cast, you will lose damage overall on the run. However, I have done so many practices using this set here where I run 60% crit, and my Shadow Milk has died every time. On all of the practices I've done, he has died every time. Is this me being lucky? Probably. Does it mean that he is going to die every time? No. But I find that 60% crit is like a happy median in the middle, where he's going to be dying, I'm going to say 99% of the time. From my own testing, that is. Now, obviously there will be some runs where you get unlucky, but I don't know, just do some testing for yourself, figure out which build is best for you. Next up we have Prune Juice. Now on Prune Juice, there are 2 builds which you can use. Now it depends on what biscuit you have. If you have a tainted poison damage biscuit, which is 20% poison damage and then 3 lines, you can use this build here, 4 crit toppings, 1 cooldown topping and a cooldown tart. If you don't, you're going to have to run a 2 poison damage, 2 cooldown biscuit instead, running 2 cooldown toppings, 3 crit toppings and a cooldown tart. The tainted poison damage biscuit is optimal, but you can't get tainted poison damage biscuits anymore. You only have it if you got it during Beast Raid. Stats wise on Prune Juice you want to run 10.2% attack speed, 35% cooldown and then as much crit as you can. You can also get some subs into attack if you want to. So the stats priority for Prune Juice is the 35% cooldown first, and then attack speed and then crit, but please don't run any attack speed toppings or anything like that. Just get the attack speed from subs. And next up we have Black Sapphire. Now on Black Sapphire you can either run 5 crit toppings and an attack tart, or 4 crit toppings, an attack topping and a crit tart. It really depends on what subs you have and how good your tarts are. It just depends what works out best for you to have the best subs. And then on Black Sapphire you want to run a 4 line poison damage biscuit. First, stats wise on Black Sapphire you want to run as much crit as you can, as much attack as you can, and then 7.5% or more cooldown. I would recommend aiming for 8% or more if you can. I personally run 8.1% because it just makes the timings a little bit less tight, especially at the beginning if you're like me and you kind of, I don't know, not forget, but you cast Black Sapphire not immediately because you're not very good at spamming. That's directed at myself. So yeah, I'd recommend running a little bit more than 7.5 if possible. And then if you have an extra sub, you can get it into attack speed. And then finally we have Candy Apple. Now on Candy Apple, the build kind of depends on your biscuit, but personally I run 3 crit toppings, a cooldown topping, a damage resist topping and a damage resist tart. And then on the biscuit I run a 3-line damage resist, 1-line cooldown biscuit. If you have a different biscuit though, you can just adjust your toppings accordingly. On Candy Apple, it's going to depend on 1, does she get Whistle? Now, she's probably not going to get Whistle because by now people have ascended their Shadow Milks, or their Shadow Milk is running attack, or whatever. So the build I use does not account for Candy Apple having Whistle. If she does have Whistle though, you can take off some of the damage resist for more crit, cooldown or attack speed. Stats wise on Candy Apple, you're going to want to run between around 12 to 13% attack speed, around 11% or more cooldown, and then as much damage resist as you can. Now I'm personally running 72%, that is maybe a little bit overkill. I'd recommend 65% or more if she's not running Whistle, but more doesn't hurt because sometimes Candy Apple likes to be a little devious and, well, let's just say I have done runs where Candy Apple has max damage resist and she still dies. So, what can I say? Sometimes more is better. For stats priority on Candy Apple, you want to run damage resist until she's not dying consistently. So to around 65% if you use 65% if she does not have Whistle, 50% if she does have Whistle. And then I would recommend cooldown so that her shields line up with Dark Choco so he is not dying. And then focus on the attack speed and then focus on crit. And now I will quickly go over Matcha. So on Matcha I run 1 cooldown topping, 2 damage resist toppings, 2 crit toppings and a cooldown top. And then a 3-line cooldown tainted poison damage beast kit. I recommend aiming for 30% or more damage resist, more the better so she doesn't die, but around 32% cooldown or more, and then as much crit as you can. For stats priority, you want to run damage resist until she's not dying, then cooldown and then crit. The treasures used on this team are Scroll, Watch and Whistle. You need Whistle to go to Black Sapphire, and then the other recipient of Whistle doesn't matter, it can go to whoever. If it goes to Candy Apples, you can run less damage resist. If it goes to anyone else, it doesn't matter. Now in this team, you're going to want to focus on Black Sapphire the most. He is your most important one to promote most especially, and also he is your main damage dealer, so he is the one you should give all your love to. I would say Dark Choco is maybe the next most important to invest in because his survival is really important. If he dies often, then there's no point using him because he's needed for his skill. So he is probably who I would recommend focusing on next. And so here is the run. So you're going to start the run by queuing Shadow Milk, and then before the boss banner you want to cast Dark Choco while still having Shadow Milk queued. Then you're going to queue Candy Apple, cast Black Sapphire as soon as possible, and then you're going to cast Prune Juice just before Candy Apple casts, or at around here on the clock. Then you're going to queue Shadow Milk. Cast Prune Juice based off of cooldown, and then cast Dark Choco after Shadow Milk is cast. Then you're going to cast Candy Apple based off of cooldown, Black Sapphire based off of cooldown, cast Prune Juice based off of cooldown, cast Shadow Milk as soon as you can, and then you're going to delay Dark Choco, queue Prune Juice or anyone else to make sure Dark Choco doesn't cast immediately, and as soon as he begins walking forward you can cast Dark Choco safely. Then pretty much for the rest of the run you're just going to spam and cast based off of who is available to cast next. Here you want to make sure that both Dark Choco and Black Sapphire do not get stunned. You want to make sure here, right at the end, that Prune Juice does get his cast in just before the round is over. It will look like he won't cast, but he should just cast with about half a second left. There is your Red Velvet Dragon run. This run got me 19.6 billion damage. And here is the damage spread. And here are my cookie stats in detail in case you are curious. So next up we have the Avatar of Destiny. Now since, as I said before, all boss levels are the same, so there is no need for the additional cooldown change between level 199 and 200. Yay! They also increase the amount of damage you do to Avatar to try and balance the boss damage variance or something, but I don't know if that really worked because they also buffed Red Velvet Dragon damage. Yeah, I don't know, but anyway. Anyway, the team consists of Pudding a la Mode, Mint Choco, Creme Brulee, Cream Ferret, and Star Coral. First up, we have Pudding a la Mode. So on Pudding a la Mode, you want to run 2 crit toppings, 3 attack speed toppings, and an attack speed tar, with a 4-line attack speed biscuit. Stats wise on Pudding a la Mode, you want to run 75% attack speed, the lower breakpoint, or 79.5% attack speed, the higher breakpoint. 24.5% crit, as much attack as you can, as much amp buff as you can, and around 3% cooldown. The stats priority for Pudding a la Mode are 75% attack speed, then crit cap, then 79.5% attack speed, cooldown, amp buff, and then attack. Personally, on my candy apple, my topping subs look like this, so I run 1 topping which has attack speed, amp buff, and crit, 2 toppings which has attack speed, amp buff, and cooldown, 2 toppings which has attack speed, amp buff, and attack. Next up we have Mint Choco. On Mint Choco you want to run 5 cooldown toppings, a cooldown tar, and a 4-line cooldown biscuit. Stats wise on Mint Choco, there are various different cooldown amounts which affect your initial Mint Choco cast. As a baseline, the ones I'll go over are 59.3, 59, 57.5, 57, and 51. But if you have numbers in between, you may still want to adjust timings by casting earlier or later. For attack speed, you simply want to get as high as you can, without sacrificing too much cooldown. For 13% attack speed, you will have the same as the next cooldown breakpoint. For example, 59 cooldown with 13 attack speed is the same as 59.3% cooldown. The stats priority for Mint Choco is cooldown, attack speed, and then crit. For Mint Choco, you don't need his magic candy, you can get it to +1, but any more won't do anything. Next we have Creme Brulee. On Creme Brulee, you want to run 2 attack speed toppings, an attack speed tar, and 3 attack toppings with a 4-line attack speed biscuit. Stats wise on Creme Brulee, you want to run 72.4% attack speed minimum if you can, but 75.3 is your higher breakpoint. The more the better for attack speed for Creme Brulee. On Creme Brulee, you also want to run as much attack as you can, a minimum of 7.7% cooldown, and you can also run some crit subs if you need to. Replace crit subs with either 1 cooldown sub, assuming you're hitting 7.7 with 4 cooldown subs, which I don't, or an attack sub. The stats priority for Creme Brulee is the 7.7% cooldown, which is so important. If you don't hit the 7.7% cooldown, he will miss his cast before the silence, and this loses you a lot of damage, then the attack speed, and then attack, and then crit. Next up we have Star Coral. On Star Coral you want to run full cooldown toppings with a cooldown tar and then a full cooldown biscuit. On Star Coral you want to run 54 to 55% cooldown with no attack speed subs. If you run attack speed subs running this cooldown, it may mess with your cast and it may cause your Pudding a la Mode to die. Or 48% with around 8% attack speed or more. Be careful with the cooldown on Star Coral. If you're running too much or too little, your Pudding a la Mode might die. The stats priority are cooldown, then attack speed if you're running 48%, then attack, and then crit. And then finally we have Cream Ferret. On Cream Ferret you want to run 5 attack toppings, a cooldown tar, and a 4-line cooldown biscuit. You want to run 35.3% cooldown, a 3-second start, and then max crit or attack. Focus cooldown, then attack, then crit. Make sure you hit 35.3%. Run more cooldown toppings if you need to hit this. The treasures on this team are Robe, Scroll, and Whistle. The robes will go to Pudding a la Mode and Creme Brulee. Don't worry about Whistle, it doesn't matter for this team. The priority on this team should be Creme Brulee. Creme Brulee should be getting all of your love. He is the most important because he is the main damage dealer. His attack speed biscuit is especially important because the more attack speed on his biscuit, the more lenient you can be with your toppings, which means you should be able to hopefully run more attack, which if you have a really good biscuit on Creme Brulee, you're going to be set for Avatar. Then you want to focus on Pudding a la Mode. Pudding a la Mode is your next biggest damage dealer. She's really important too. And then for the support, you want Mint Choco to get your best biscuit, your best toppings. Mint Choco should be the one who gets the best of everything because he is there to buff Creme Brulee, so the more cooldown he has, the better. And so, here is the run. Okay, so first up you want to start by queuing Star Coral, and then cast Cream Ferret, And then you're going to queue pudding a la mode. Now where you cast mint depends on your cooldown. Please see the end of this run to see where. But I'm going to cast right here. And then queue creme brulee after pudding a la mode has cast. Then you're just going to queue star coral, and I personally queue mint here to make sure that he casts as soon as possible, and I manually cast cream ferret once her cooldown is up. Then I just cast based off of cooldown for these few casts. And you're going to be casting all of the cookies except for pudding a la mode based off of their cooldown for the entirety of the run. For pudding a la mode's next cast, you're going to delay her to around 34 to 33 seconds. You can try delaying her later than this, but I find that this is the best time to delay her for me personally. Then you're going to delay pudding a la mode to about 17.5 seconds until all of the pillars have dropped. And then for pudding a la mode's last cast, you're just going to wait until creme brulee's skill is over. So if you watch the green bar, you can see this here. And then cast pudding a la mode. And there is your run. And here are my stats. The biggest issue people have with the Avatar of Destiny is the mint or creme brulee silence. This is what a mint creme brulee silence looks like. And it is not a run ruiner, but if you get the mint and creme brulee silence at the same time, you're probably going to be losing about 1 billion damage. So how do you avoid this? For creme brulee, make sure your creme brulee has 7.7% cooldown. If he does, you're not spamming him quick enough, or you're not queuing him every time, or you're queuing him too late. Sometimes if you start queuing a cookie near the end of their cooldown, it will delay their cast a little bit, which is really annoying, especially if you forget, oh, I need to queue him. So every time creme brulee's cast comes up, make sure he is casting as soon as his cooldown goes off. If he is not, then you're doing something wrong. Either physically spam him yourself, or start queuing him earlier. Creme brulee should always be your focus when queuing a cookie. If you're still struggling with getting creme brulee to cast, run more cooldown. I personally run 7.8% and I find the timing really tight. I don't think I would make it running 7.7% exactly. So I would recommend running maybe 8% cooldown on creme brulee to give yourself a little bit more leeway if you can. Just because it is much better to have creme brulee never be silenced and run more cooldown to sacrifice a little bit of attack or attack speed than have him be silenced because you lose so much damage. As for Mint Choco, his silence is probably due to you miscasting him at the beginning, or you're not spamming him quick enough like creme brulee. Now, my creme brulee and Mint Choco normally go off very close to each other, especially at the second, I think, maybe second or third cast, I can't remember off the top of my head, but they normally tend to cast really close together, and if I'm not paying attention or not clicking quick enough, my Mint Choco, I will cue him and he will get delayed and then be silenced. Make sure this doesn't happen. Also, if you are casting him too late in the beginning, he won't catch up and will be silenced. So make sure you're not casting him too late. If Mint Choco gets silenced, it's not as bad as if Creme Brulee gets silenced, but it still costs you a lot of damage. So those are the two things you should watch out for: the Mint Choco and the Creme Brulee silence. Okay, next we have Living Abyss. Now Living Abyss is just having a little holiday right now. It will be back soon, and so I will include the team anyway, just in case you want to be prepared and build, or in case I disappear for a month again and you need a Living Abyss guide, I got you covered. So the only changes to Living Abyss is the fact that every level is the same, which I don't actually think makes much of a difference for Abyss. And of course the 0.5 times speed, which should make the beginning timings easier for recast for anyone who may have been struggling before. So the team consists of Black Forest, Eternal Sugar, Blueberry Pie, Wedding Cake and Twizzly Gummy. So first up we have Black Forest. On Black Forest you want to run mixed crit attack toppings with 3 crit toppings, 2 attack toppings and a crit tart. Then you want either 2 line attack speed, 2 lines crit, or 3 lines attack speed, 1 line crit. Stats wise on Black Forest you want to run 33.9% attack speed. If you run less than this you will lose a lot of damage. You just want to be careful when running 33.9% exactly, because Cookie Run Kingdom has hidden decimals, and if your 33.9% is a low roll, you may not hit breakpoint. For Black Forest other stats you want to run: as much crit as possible, the cap is 72 so no need to go over this, and then you want her attack to be as high as possible. Personally I aim for 60% crit and then I run as much attack as I can. If you're running a 3-1 Biscuit, aka 3 attack speed, 1 crit, you should have extra subs to use, so try and get amp buff if you can, but don't choose amp buff over crit or attack, only extra attack speed. For subs priority on Black Forest you want to focus attack speed to breakpoint first, then crit, then attack and then amp buff. Next up we have Eternal Sugar. On Eternal Sugar you want to run 3 crit toppings, 2 attack toppings and an attack tart, or you can run 3 attack toppings, 2 crit toppings and a crit tart, whichever has better subs for you. Then the Biscuit doesn't matter too much for Eternal Sugar, you want to use a 4-line poison damage Biscuit. For Eternal Sugar you simply want as much attack and as much crit as you possibly can. The crit cap is 72. For stats priority I'd recommend focusing crit first, then attack. Next up is the main damage dealer, and that is Blueberry Pie. On Blueberry Pie you want to run 4 crit toppings, an attack speed topping and an attack speed tart with a 4-line electric damage Biscuit. On Blueberry Pie you want to run 33% attack speed minimum, however it is much safer because the breakpoint is high 33% to run 33.1%. 33.1% will always hit breakpoint. For crit you want to run as much as possible, the cap is 57, and you want as much attack as possible also. The next best sub for Blueberry Pie is amp buff, but don't choose it over crit or attack. On Blueberry Pie, if you can't hit 33.1% attack speed, you should drop it to 20.4 in favour of attack, crit and amp buff. I would recommend optimally running an attack topping instead of an attack speed topping if you're running 20.4, but if you can't run 20.4 without an attack speed topping, then just run more attack, crit and amp buff subs instead. The stats priority on Blueberry Pie should be attack speed to breakpoint first, then crit, then attack and then amp buff. For Blueberry Pie you also need her magic candy at least level 10, but recommended level 30. For Blueberry Pie, with the way her crit works, you want to aim for a whole number because, for example, 55.9% is the same as 55%, so ideally you want to run either 0.1 more for 56 or go down to 55 in order to run more attack instead if your toppings allow. Also, check that the whole number is in fact rounded up and it is not something devious, like it says it is 56, but it is 55.98. Check this in the cookie screen. Here is an example for you, so you can see here, they both say that they are 56, but one of them is actually 56, and the other one is lying to me. Now we have Wedding Cake. On wedding cake you want to run 2 crit toppings, 3 cooldown toppings and a cooldown tart. You also want to run exactly 50% cooldown. You can run a little bit more but it won't do anything. If you go over don't worry, but try not to go too much under. If you can't hit this running crit toppings, then run more cooldown toppings instead. The cooldown is much more important than the crit. Running crit will give you damage, but if you don't hit the cooldown requirements, the team kind of falls apart. For the final sub on wedding cake, you can get it in attack. And finally we have Twizzly Gummy. On Twizzly Gummy you want to run 3 crit toppings, 2 cooldown toppings and a cooldown tart. On Twizzly Gummy you want to run 10% attack speed, 46 to 48% cooldown and then max crit. On Twizzly Gummy you also need her magic candy at least level 10, but I recommend level 30. For stats priority on Twizzly Gummy, you want to aim for cooldown first, then attack speed and then focus on crit. Okay, so for treasures on this team you want to use Robes, Scroll and Whistle. Robes should go to Blueberry Pie and Black Forest. Whistle doesn't matter and can go to anyone. For the team there are 2 cookies you want to prioritize when building, because these 2 are going to be your main damage increases and so the best investment wise. The first best investment wise is 100% Blueberry Pie. Now Blueberry Pie is the main damage dealer and is best to invest into, especially the electric damage beast kit. The more electric damage, the more damage you will be doing. However, once you've got both Twizzly Gummy and Blueberry Pie's magic candy to level 10, I think it would be better overall to focus on Twizzly Gummy's magic candy, because Twizzly Gummy's magic candy actually buffs Blueberry Pie because it gives more crit damage to other electric cookies. The next best investment is Black Forest. She is your next best damage dealer. Her promotions are especially important. You can now buy her soul stones in the shop, so you should get her to 5 stars as soon as possible. And here is the run. You're going to start by queuing Twizzly Gummy, and then anywhere in this section here, between these treasure glints, you're going to cast Wedding Cake. Then you want to turn off auto when Twizzly casts and spam Wedding Cake. Then cast Black Forest and the 2-8 treasure glints and Eternal Sugar at the 6-12 treasure glints. Then cast Blueberry Pie at 410 at around 56.375-ish seconds. Turn auto back on and cast Wedding Cake and Twizzly Gummy based off of cooldown. Once Twizzly has cast, queue Eternal Sugar. Here you want Blueberry Pie to have 4 greed stacks. Delay Wedding Cake and Black Forest and cast them 6-12 and 4-8 up. You can turn auto on for the rest of the run. Blueberry Pie should cast at around 10.5 seconds. So there's the run with 28.3 billion damage. Here's the damage chart. And here are the stats used on this run just in case you want to use them for reference. Here are the timings written out, please pause to read. And I'll quickly go over some of the most common issues and their solutions regarding the run. Living Abyss is kind of annoying because the timings are kind of specific. Here are some ways you can fix the issues that I see most often, and that is Blueberry Pie recasting either not at 10.5 seconds or she's not recasting at all. So the first thing is that you may be casting Wedding Cake a little too late at the beginning. Wedding Cake's timing at the very beginning is probably the most important thing when trying to do recast. You can tell if she's too late if your greed stacks are at 6, and the recast happens later than expected, usually at the 7 or 8 second mark. This usually loses around 200 million damage, so it's not the end of the world, but if you time it a little earlier, you shouldn't encounter it. Now next is casting Wedding Cake too early. This can be kind of fatal to the run, and to be honest, it is much harder to do in my opinion because you must be casting pretty early for it to happen, but if you do, Blueberry Pie normally has 1 or sometimes no greed and she won't recast at all. In the worst case scenario, this can lose you up to 1 billion damage. So just cast Wedding a little bit later than you are now. The next thing is really annoying but normally pretty easy to catch if you do a practice run first, and that is your Black Forest doesn't actually hit the attack speed breakpoint. That there are some hidden decimals causing your 33.9 to not be high enough. You can't tell this from the stat screen, but you can tell in a run if your Blueberry Pie greed is only 2. This loses approximately 1 billion or more damage. The easiest fix for this is to just run 34% attack speed to be safe. And the last thing I can think of, which is a common problem, is you may just be forgetting to delay Wedding Cake and Black Forest mid-run. This may sound silly, but I do it sometimes when I'm on autopilot or not paying attention. This will mess up the recast. Okay, so now I will go over the Machine God boss. So this is the new boss that has been added and it has a weakness to water. So I will go over the team that you can use now. This team consists of Cream Soda, Frilled Jellyfish, Sea Fairy, Seltzer and Menthol. First up we have Cream Soda. On Cream Soda you want to run. What you want to run depends on your biscuit. I'm going to show you what I've got set up at the moment. So I'm currently running full attack toppings with an attack tart, and then a 1-line water 3-line cooldown biscuit. I think more water damage on your biscuit is better, but Cream Soda is not your biggest priority for biscuits. So basically I'm going to say make do with what you have. If you have more water damage on your biscuit, you should run more cooldown toppings instead to make sure that you hit the stats. On Cream Soda you want to run around 25% cooldown, as much attack as possible, around 10% attack speed, and then how much crit depends on what level your Frilled Jellyfish magic candy is. If the magic candy is plus 30 you need 6 crit, if the magic candy is plus 20 you need 11, and if the magic candy is plus 10 you need 16. For Cream Soda the stats priority is cooldown, attack speed, crit and then attack. Next up we have Frilled Jellyfish. So on Frilled Jellyfish you want to run a full cooldown biscuit and then 5 attack toppings and a cooldown tart. On Frilled Jelly you want 35% cooldown, as much crit as needed, so as I said 6 if plus 30, 11 if plus 20 and 16 if plus 10. And as much attack as possible. You want to focus on cooldown, then crit and then attack. Frilled Jelly's magic candy is also really important because it increases the amount of damage your team does because it increases the crit, so try and prioritise the magic candy to at least level 20 if possible. Next up we have Sea Fairy. On Sea Fairy you want to run 4 cooldown toppings, an attack topping and then a cooldown tart, or 5 cooldown toppings and an attack tart, and then a full water damage biscuit. On Sea Fairy you want to run around 30% cooldown, as much crit and attack, as much crit as needed as said before, as much attack as you can. You also need Sea Fairy's Crystal Jam, basically as high as you can get it. In the video I show the Crystal Jam is level 20. Next up we have Seltzer. On Seltzer you want to run a full water damage biscuit and then run mixed 2 cooldown, 3 attack toppings and a cooldown tart. Or if you don't have a water damage biscuit for Seltzer, you can instead run full attack toppings with a cooldown biscuit. For the stats on Seltzer, you want to run 30% cooldown, around 30% cooldown, as much attack and as much crit as you can. Again, the crit percent depends on what level your magic candy is. And finally we have Menthol, the main damage dealer on the team, and his promotions really matter, which is really annoying, but what can you do? So you really need to focus in on Menthol. Don't worry too much about Seltzer promotions. On Menthol you want to run full attack toppings with an attack tart and a 4-line water damage biscuit. On Menthol you want to run whatever crit you need depending on what your Frilled Jelly magic candy is, around 9% or more cooldown, and then I personally recommend getting to about 5% attack speed if you can. Focus on the cooldown first and then the attack speed. and then as much attack as you can. The treasures used on this team are Scroll, Whistle and Watch. And so here is the run. You're going to start by queuing Sea Fairy, and then once Sea Fairy has cast, you're going to queue Seltzer, then queue Frilled Jelly, cast Cream Soda, and then as soon as Cream Soda casts, cast Menthol. And then you can literally just full auto the entire run. And so there is the run. So this run got me 20.8 billion damage. And here are the stats. Thank you so much everybody for watching this video. As I said at the start, I am so sorry that it took me so long to make this. I hope that this guide has helped you. I wish you all loads of success in the new guild update. Thank you again so much for watching. If you have any ideas, thoughts, comments, just anything you want to say in the comment section down below, please let me know. If you enjoyed this video, I'd really appreciate if you liked and subscribed, and I will see you next time. Bye!